Adam Funkhouser says, now you've had some time with Shop V 2.0. Has it been the improvement you hoped it would be? It's been so much better than I could have hoped it was. Shop 2.0, which is having that space out there to work, to overflow, to film, to set up large builds. It has been a spectacular increase in our ability of what we can achieve in my shop. And it's been a godsend for me managing projects because somebody, and let me just say, I've answered that one, I've answered that one, I've answered that one. Somebody had a question around this. No, I'm not seeing it right off the top of my head, but the Shop 2.0, the reason we're filming here is because the main table that has existed in Shop 2.0, my old dining table, has moved because I'm about to build a sewing layout workbench for that room. That's what that room needs. It needs a real workbench for soft goods and for cutting stuff. And so I'm building a workbench, it's not a workbench of my dreams, but it's a workbench that will, I think, really increase what I can do. And I've got some soft goods projects I really want to lay into, and this workbench will be part of that. I'm hoping to execute the goodliest portion of that after the live stream today. That is the goal. I am not sure if I'll get there. And it's an ongoing process. At the beginning of Workbench 2.0, I put in a lathe that I thought it would be great to have a secondary operation lathe, and it never quite worked out that way. So I moved that lathe back into storage and got that pantograph mill that we just put up a video about. And that's going to come into it because I'm actually going to make some parts for the new workbench on the pantograph mill. I'm very excited about that. Yeah, it has radically improved my ability to see the work that I'm executing in this space. Because it's no longer like that space is overflow for what happens here, it's part of what happens here. And thus, that simple consciousness shift of like work and hangout, now it's work, it's a lot easier to make it all work when they're both on the same page, as it were. And right on schedule, Prohibitor says, are you having separation anxiety from the props you used to keep in the 2.0 area? No. And I'll tell you why. It's because I can still find everything, every last thing that was in that area. I have no problem getting to. My assistant Veronica and I worked out an organizational scheme, and she executed it with a team. It was spectacular. We stacked up everything that was in Workshop 2.0 into storage, but it's mapped to my mental map. Thus, when I need something like, oh, I need to go find the original lightsaber I built of the Ba. Well, I know lightsabers box is column A, shelf 2, 3, and 4, and I know where column A is over in storage, and so it's never taken me more than 5 minutes to obtain anything that I had stored over there. That feels really good. I say I'm a high-functioning hoarder, but what people tell me is that hoarders know where all their stuff is. So knowing where all my stuff is doesn't make me necessarily less of a hoarder. Shane Munro has a question that is in my mind right now. Just standing in the workshop today and wondering about your organizational philosophy on smoothing abrasives. How do you organize your sandpaper, and what do you do when you retire that one piece that is just holding on? Oh, sandpaper. So I'm working on a project that I need to sand off the anodized layer of an aluminum piece and bring it to a polish. And so doing a high polish of large swaths of aluminum, not one of my core competencies here in the shop. I have since gathered together materials for doing this, but it also had me look at my orbital sanders and my sanding discs and my various sanding modalities here. the fact is that there are like many, all right. You asked what my organizational strategy is. First of all, I have a sandpaper box that holds all of my regular sheet sandpaper that's this size, everything from 60 up to 600. Maybe it's just 400. I think it's 60 grit to 400 grit. And whatever that is, that's about 15, 12, something like that, different sandpaper grits. And if I have less than 10 sheets, I order more. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. But that's not the only sandpaper I keep in the shop. I also keep Scotch-Brite material. Scotch-Brite is this stuff here. And I keep it in a couple of different grades, and I keep it in a couple of different form factors. This is one of the more important abrasives in the shop. And by the way, when you want to add a like, what do you call it? A sort of diffuse reflection texture to chrome, this stuff, the brown stuff is the stuff you want in the Scotch-Brite. And you're asking about one piece of sandpaper that's just holding on. I taught advanced model making at the Academy of Art back in 99, 2000, 2001. And the students would get an assignment in another class, like make tires for your car, and then they would execute that assignment in my class. So my class was an open forum, and I would just be going around putting out fires. But one of the fires that I so frequently put out was someone sitting there with a tiny bit of sandpaper that they've been working with for like 30 minutes. And it's not doing any work anymore. It's like a piece of leather. You're just sort of buffing it now. And getting the students to like wrap their heads around, like, when you're doing material removal at the beginning, you want to constantly have new pieces of sandpaper. Sandpaper is your cheapest asset. So you want to be going to a new corner, new piece, tearing yourself a new piece, going for the fresh stuff. And in that, I do get thrifty with my sandpaper. So I end up with a bin full of sandpaper bits that are still too useful to throw away. And that bin floats around the shop. I wish it was neater than that. Oh, right, okay, so there's other modalities of sanding too. There's like my orbital sander, and I've got is this a 5-inch? Yeah, I have a 5-inch orbital sander. I have a couple of them. And I have a king's ransom of discs in every grade from 60 up to about 600. For the higher grit sandpapers, I have a polishing drawer where I've got lapping compounds and diamond lap and other stuff like that for the super high-end stuff. Doesn't come into it much these days, but you know, I like to have that stuff around. These are hard to store because when you have two of them next to each other, the Velcro loop and the aluminum oxide face means they want to grab each other. I'm having trouble storing these right now. And my sandpaper has moved away from where it was, and I haven't moved it back, and it's because I'm not sure of how the sandpaper fits into my flow right now. It's just a very ongoing. I moved the drill press, and moving the drill press necessitated moving the sandpaper, and the sandpaper hasn't moved back, and it's been weeks, which is ridiculous. But sometimes that's how this kind of thing sort of happens. The discs are stored in a long, I made a long trough for them with separators, which seemed like a great idea because you could fit the discs in, but you can't ever pull out one disc. You have to pull out the whole trough and peel a disc off the top. It doesn't. I wish there was a better way, but I haven't come up with it yet. But I also I am clear in my shop that I have a need for a full shelf of all polishing stuff. Right now it's in 4 different bins, and it comes up often enough between my 2-inch polisher, this, and I'm going to get pull out one of my right angle drills to use as a buffer. I have enough polishing, sanding, and material removal stuff that I need to bring it together. And that always feels like a bit of a, that is always what I'm searching for. I'm searching for the moment of clarity of oh, okay, all the polishing needs to come together. That's the first moment of clarity. That happened about 2 weeks ago. It could take me another month to figure out how they all live together as I go back and forth to the places where they are. I will say one thing here in the shop is that I don't move things location without careful consideration. Because the fastest way to lose something is to go, oh, I think that my airbrush could store over here. And then a week later, I'm like, where's my airbrush? My brain's like, we have no idea. Because I got clever and I didn't put the airbrush where the airbrush goes. So I don't move things unless it's very carefully thought out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I wanted to briefly mention that you could become a tested member. I know, everybody is competing for you to become a member of their thing. What I want to express to you is that the Tested membership has become such an important part of the Tested family. We get tremendous feedback from the Tested members, and they expand the stories that we can tell and the things that we have access to. And you can become a part of it right now by clicking on the link below. See you in the chat.